Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, college coaches and student athletes across the United States. This is Anthony Williams again, CEO and founder of Connected Athletics. The Spotlight Podcast is one of our many platforms that we use to help student athletes and current career athletes tell their story, share their journey on how their athletic life has made them successful in life after eligibility. Before we get into tonight's guest, I want to talk to you about our sponsors. I want to thank our sponsors for making our podcast happen. The first one and our big one is Buffalo Wild Wings. A good friend of mine is a regional VP there, Brian Soltis. He is as passionate about student athletes as I am. And so he got Buffalo Wild Wings to pony up staffing and resources to help us out. So shout out to Buffalo Wild Wings, who has taken an active role in helping student athletes tell their story during the recruiting process. Also, want to shout out my good friends up in Nebraska, Go Edit Graphics. They do a great job of providing cookie cutter, great design, graphic designs for high school, college, and pro athletic departments who want to get outbound information out there with dazzling graphics to go with it, whether it's your schedule, game change, player spotlights, things like that. Check out my friends over at Go Edit Graphics. They'll take care of you over there. And then lastly, my good friend Stefan Johnson over in Houston has a new company called I Am Epic. They do very dazzling sports gear. They do uniforms. They do 7-on-7 jerseys. They do a little bit of everything. Go check them out to see some of their new styles, which are really catching fire here in Texas. So thanks to all my sponsors. But with that, I want to bring in somebody that I actually work with and have gotten to know him very well here the last 4 or 5 years. Matt Lauer is the current director of sales, marketing, media, and sponsorships for Football University, one of the, if not the top events company in the country as it comes to amateur football sports. Matt, how are you doing this evening?
Well, look, you said good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's the evening time, Anthony, and now you got me all hungry. All right, talking about Buffalo Wild Wings and these great sponsors that you got down there in the great state of Texas. But I'm doing fantastic. Could not be more humbled and thrilled to be on here tonight and talk a little football and talk the journey beyond the game.
Great, man. Well, let's jump right into it. Want to make sure take respect your time, Matt. I know how busy you are. Matt, tell us you went to Carmel High School in Indiana. Tell us about your high school experience as a student athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably nothing special when it boils down to it. I mean, look, I was fortunate enough to play the position that I loved because I loved the game. I was a quarterback. I mean, I'm 5'7". I'm 180 pounds. I mean, I was never blazing fast or super tall or had the biggest arm, but football is a game that more than any other sport is a mental sport. And if you understand how to break down coverages, how to get into the little nuances of football. If you can pre-read things before the snap, if you're able to quickly digest a quick rotation on the defensive side, then you can play quarterback. Especially at the high school level where the reads are, at least back in the mid 2000s, they were probably a little less complex than they are today in terms of the passing schemes and how the defense rotates. For me, it was extremely simple. It's a one high or two high safety. It's one or two reads, and I just need to throw the ball to a spot, right? And fortunately for me, I didn't really necessarily need to see to know where to throw the ball. I just needed to throw it to that spot. But I knew quickly that my actual participation when it came to putting on a helmet and shoulder pads and playing the game was going to be short-lived, and that it was going to be through high school. And I always kind of knew that, and I was okay with that. I flirted around with maybe going to play D3 and trying to walk on and doing all that stuff. But for me, football was always going to be something bigger than what happened on the field. So I think what probably a lot of college student athletes are learning now or are going to learn as they become juniors and seniors, and then some NFL players, I learned that football ends on the field much quicker than maybe you want to believe or anticipate. But I learned that lesson early, and the quicker that you're able to digest that is, something that can be really positive. So for me, I was fortunate that my high school coach, Mo Moriarty, he actually coached a guy by the name of Rex Grossman, who went to the University of Florida. And when he went to the University of Florida, the head coach at the time at Florida was the legendary coach Steve Spurrier. So about my time, when I was finishing up in high school in 2006, 2007, I just kind of asked, I just said, look, coach, I mean, I'd love to kind of continue on in football. Maybe it's coaching. I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I wanted to continue. And I think this is a good lesson for anybody, any high schooler out there or college kid. Sometimes you got to ask. And I just asked, said, hey, coach, will you make a call for me? You have a connection with Steve Spurrier. You have a connection down there. Will you make a call? And can I get an interview? Can I try to get a job on the staff? And he was happy to make that call. It's a very common theme and saying is it's not what you know, it's who you know. Right. So I learned that in an early age too, right? Learning that I knew somebody who knew somebody, and that helped me advance. So Anthony, I went down and, got a quick little interview at South Carolina, and, I saw the palm trees and it was 90 degrees outside, and I was like, I'm leaving Indiana. Like, this is great. So, and that kind of got me to college, and that was where my journey at South Carolina started. And I was able to work for the football team in a variety of different areas, helping out with some of the positions, whether it was tight end or special teams, and helping those coaches out, whether it was doing, equipment stuff, being an equipment manager and running around and doing all the little things that you have to do when you're young, to understand every little aspect of a team. And for me, that entire experience taught me so many things and opened my eyes to so many different things. I mean, I got to travel around the Southeastern Conference at a time when we were actually good. To have guys like Marcus Lattimore and Alshon Jeffrey and Stephon Gilmore, just to be Melvin Ingram. I mean, I could go on and on about the NFL players that were there, but to be around that environment and understand what greatness looks like, kind of elevated my understanding and knowledge of what a good college player is, what a great college player is, and what an NFL player is. Right. Because there's a lot of good college players out there. There's very few NFL players. Right. And I was able to kind of quickly see the difference, between them, being at a school like that. And
well, Matt, let me stop you right there, because you went through a lot, and that's great information.
Sorry about
Let's
that.
go back to you at a high school. I mean, you and I were at these camps. We've been around thousands of kids in our time at FBU. And you and I both know, you've heard me say it, I know you say it a lot. Only about 5%, let's be relaxed, at 5% of high school student athletes will play football in college. 95%, their college or their football career will be over after high school. Talk about how you came to that, based on your size and your weight and everything like that. But talk about how you said, okay, I may be done playing the game, but I still want to be around the game for my career and be a professional at this. A lot of kids that we come across, that's going to come to their reality. The game will come to an end sooner than they want it to. Talk about just how you went from playing the game to trying to figure out a career in the many other facets, cross-functional titles or roles that are in different high school, college, and pro organizations. Talk about that transition first.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think, Anthony, and that's something that I love about you, right? Is it's a very honest thing, and you're a very honest person, and I think it's something where you just have to be honest with yourself, right? And you have to understand, if you just looked at a board, right, and you said, okay, the standard Division I athlete is XYZ. He's this tall, he's this heavy, he runs this, he can do that. If you don't fit those measurables, you need to kind of maybe chop D1 off your list.
Yeah.
Okay. Then look at the D2 athlete, right? And go through those. And then you go to the D3 athlete. And if you don't fit any of those measurables, that's okay. Right. I mean, look, I'm not saying that you can't play football at the next level, but it's okay if you don't. Right. And for me, I just kind of looked at it like, look, there are so many different other things that football can provide that are so much deeper than just being one of the 11, on offense, or one of the 11 on defense that gets to strap it up and play between the lines. I mean, so, I can just kind of look at some of the things that I thought, I'm thinking, okay, I want to coach, right? So coaching is an avenue. So if you have a passion for the game and you love the mental and the strategy and all those different pieces, the curriculum of football, right? If you really love that, there's coaching. I mean, look, and you can coach at the high school, college, NFL levels. Those opportunities are there for you. I mean, if you, maybe you want to get into equipment, maybe you really like the operations aspects of things, right? And you want to be an equipment manager and you want to run those things. And we're not even talking about the business side of things, right? I mean, we're talking about, every single NFL major college program, even D3 college programs, they have sales, marketing, advertising, media, activation, you name it, they have it, that kind of can mold into your skill set. So there's so many ways that football can take you, and it doesn't have to be just because you're playing on the field. So I'd encourage maybe some of those student athletes that are watching this, Anthony, look, if you're not on that D1, D2, D3 board and you're not seeing your measurables, think about what you like, what you're good at. What enjoyment do you get, out of the game of football? And maybe try to tie some of your personality traits into one of those paths, because colleges have tons of opportunities out there for you to link up with the team. You can be in college and you can work for the football team in a variety of their departments. There's multiple departments where you can be involved with football and have that be a bridge to your next career path. So I think if you're just a young student athlete out there that's worried about this, this isn't your end. Your journey with football is not ending. It's honestly just beginning, because this is a lifetime move instead of just a move that maybe gets you to your 30s and then you still have to figure it out.
Right. Well, Matt, you bring up a good point. Talk about kids profiling themselves if they fit in those categories of D1, D2, D3.
Mm-hmm.
Let's also talk about the kids that do fit in there. Eventually, hey, some athletes are currently at the high school, some of them in college, some of them in pro. Eventually, the game will come to an end. Talk about for some of those athletes who are going to play at the college level. I've talked about it before. There is a point in every athlete's career where they figure out, hey, the game's gonna come to an end. Whether it's your senior year in high school, maybe it's your sophomore year in college, maybe it's after your first training camp. You're like, hey, I got to start planning for the next thing. Talk about how you put together a plan to say, hey, I'm done with football, but now I want to start focusing my life onto these kind of things. And then talk about the grind, how you were going to jump and be a director of sales right now. You had to do a whole bunch of little jobs to prove yourself and build your resume in order to get to where you're at now, where you're going in the future.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, it'll come quicker for others than it will, for some. I mean, we've talked about it already tonight. I mean, my playing career ended when I saw Morgan Newton, walk through the doors at Carmel High School when I was a senior, and I think he was a junior or sophomore. And I was like, well, I think he's going to play because he's going to end up going to Kentucky. So I'm going to help make sure that he's ready to go. So, I think for everyone out there, whatever level you're at, right? If you're in high school, you're in college, or maybe you're in the pros and you're watching this. I mean, father time is undefeated, unless your name is Thomas Brady, odds are you're not going to be able to play forever. Okay. You're going to have to find something off the field that provides you not only fulfillment in your life, but, just gives you the opportunity to continue on a career path and make a living, for your family and for whoever is important to you. So, for those kids out there, and we can kind of go through the stages, let's say you're in high school, right? If you're not falling into one of those buckets right now, Anthony's correct. You need to start making a plan. So what I would be doing is I'd maybe be looking at, okay, what are the 3 or 4 things that I'm interested in, that are off the field of football? Okay. Then maybe I'd be looking at, okay, what are the 3 or 4 colleges, right, that really tie into those things, right? That really I'm passionate about. Maybe I'm passionate about business. Maybe I'm passionate about sales. Maybe I'm passionate about activation and events, right? Find schools that tailor to those traits. And then let's say you want to get into football. Guess what? The football staffs, the media departments, the athletic departments, they want the student athletes, they want students to reach out to them to potentially work for them. So I'd start with what you like, the schools that fit those interests, and then reach out to the athletic departments or football teams within those schools to try to get a job, to maybe kickstart your career in terms of off the field development. Let's say you're in college.
Yeah, Matt's great point. I think another thing I'd like you to talk on is, talk about, networking. When you're a football player, you have, 50 plus teammates, you've got different coaches, you're playing against different guys. Talk about the importance of how you got to where you are now and how important building your network of people, because as you said, it isn't always what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, okay, so from a me perspective, right, and kind of, how I did it, at the end of the day, for every student athlete out there watching, it's a grind. Okay, you've got to wake up every single day ready to, understand that it's like a competition. So luckily, life and careers and jobs can be just like sports. If you like to compete, you can wake up every day and try to compete and be better than the next person. For me, what I learned very early, just like with my high school coach, is that I'm never the smartest person in the room, but I probably know more people than you do. Right. And that is powerful. Right. Because when you know more people, your network expands and the amount of resources that you have expands. There's certain things that I'm never going to understand how to do, but I guarantee I can call somebody in my phone just like you can, Anthony, and somebody will know how to do them. Somebody who knows somebody that knows how to do it, or somebody who knows somebody that can get you to this place in this event. So it's extremely important as a young man, as a young woman, to get out there and do a bunch of different things. And that's what my career has been. And I told Steve Quinn this when I was first getting involved with FBU. I've kind of had a cocktail of a career. I've had, a little bit of cherries, I've had some soda, I've had all the different mixtures, right, that you put into a drink. And um, it's helped me create relationships and connections with so many different people in so many different paths. So I've done, sports agency stuff. So I've worked for player representation and player marketing, kind of that NFL agent, Jerry Maguire, Drew Rosenhaus, whatever you want to call it, type of industry, right? So I've met people in that industry. I've worked for companies that focus on client marketing, event marketing, where we work with big corporate companies like Bank of America, and I managed a relationship with the Dallas Cowboys, right? So I'm still in football, right? I'm working for Bank of America, but I'm working with the Dallas Cowboys, right? And then I've done stuff where I've traveled across the country and worked for the Special Olympics, right? For another big event agency. So the whole purpose of my career has been to don't ever be shy in terms of trying to try a bunch of different things. Okay. Because the more that you're able to get out there and learn, and the more people that you're able to know, the more, I guess, probably the better chance you have of being successful down the road when you find the right thing that really fits you, which I found right now with FDU.
That's awesome. Well, so tell us, we talked about just the competition, we talked about the networking. Talk about how, even though you're not playing football, how the things that made you a good football player are now helping you be a great director of sales and marketing and everything else. Talk about how those sports qualities as an athlete
Mhm.
absolutely transition to being successful in the professional world.
Well, more so, Anthony, I think you can attest to this. I think your sons can attest to this. I mean, maybe not your daughter, or the standout softball player, but I'll stick to the Williams men of the family. Um, I think football more than any other sport, and I am 100% saying this biasly, but I think football more than any other sport prepares you to be successful in any other venture that you decide to do. And the reason that I say that is because I think football, more so than any other sport, requires extreme commitment and preparation at an extremely high level all the time. Okay. So football taught me, at an early age, and I'm sure it's teaching many student athletes across the country, that the minute you decide to cheat football, you will not be successful. So if you decide not to do that last rep in the weight room, you decide to maybe, you know, jog the last sprint. Okay. Or, hey, maybe I don't need to do this film session tonight. That will impact you on Friday night. Okay. Or Saturday night or Sunday, if you're so blessed to play on Sundays. And I take that same approach with work, right? It's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, am I doing all the little things to be successful and be prepared and be committed? Okay. Am I taking that type of aggressive nature and commitment to my day-to-day routine that's going to lead me to being successful, right? Because right? Deep down personally if you've cheated the system, right? And that will always catch up with you when you're not putting it in to the best and the most max of your abilities. So for me, it's just been, football is like, look, you got to commit, you got to prepare. And that's what that's what I've taken a ton away from in terms of applying it to my own day-to-day career.
I like it. Matt, a lot of great nuggets you're dropping to these kids right now. As we finish up here, let you get back to your night. Like I said earlier, you and I come across a lot of student athletes. What would you tell an FBU kid now? Maybe he's maybe a sophomore, or junior. And he's like, you know what? I'm not going to be a starter on varsity. I love the game, but I kind of like what I'm hearing from Matt, and I kind of would like to track his career. What's maybe the one piece of advice you tell that kid to start preparing for? And you kind of outlined, but what is one thing you tell? What would you tell Matt Lauer back in 2008 that you didn't know that you know now that you didn't know back then?
I would have told Matt Lauer back in 2008, it's too bad you weren't around for the 7-on-7 craze, because the 5'7" quarterback is dominant in 2020. About 15 years too early, Anthony. But no, I mean, I think one thing that is a little different today, and this is not to demean this generation of student athlete, because I've said it multiple times that I actually think that student athletes today have it really hard because of social media. I think that social media is really tough and can be emotionally and mentally taxing, on student athletes. So I understand how hard that can be. What I would tell them, and maybe this is a little bit more our generation or whatever, is do not be shy to get shot down. And what I mean by that is, if you're a sophomore or junior and you're thinking, man, I don't think I'm going to be able to play in college, don't be shy to reach out, to somebody like me, or, somebody at a college that's working in an athletic department. Aggressively pursue trying to expand your network, like we've talked about, to get your next opportunity. So what I would, that's what I would have told myself back then. And that's what I did. Right. I went out and I shot my shot. So I would continue to just aggressively pursue what you're doing, just like you would do on the football field. Don't be afraid that, he didn't DM me back, or he didn't call me back, he doesn't like me, don't be afraid of that. I would just aggressively pursue whatever you'd like to do, and reach out to me. I mean, look, I know you threw up my Twitter and all that stuff. I mean, I'm here to help any way that I can help a young student athlete that's out there that is looking for their next way to break into football in a different way than on the field. Find a mentor, find somebody that can, help you get to the next spot.
Matt, that is great advice that I've even thought about. All these kids that are going on these unofficial visits, or they're camping right now at universities. Yes, talk to the coach and try and get you a scholarship. But if not, if you think that the equipment guy that's running around making sure that the field that you're practicing on during camp is kind of cool, man, go talk to that. Hey, how did you get this job? And not that you're going to get the job right now, but for later down the road, or if you meet somebody on your visit that's involved with academic assistance for the student athlete. I mean, talk to people that you think you might be interested in. Matt, you and I talked about life is all about trying things to figure out, I like that, or you know what, that's not for me. But you won't know it until you try it. So I love that advice.
Can I say one thing real quick, Anthony, about that I just love what you just said? Student athletes out there, you're going on an unofficial visit, okay? You're meeting all these coaches, and you want their attention, and they might think that you're cool, and you might think that they're cool. 90% of them aren't going to remember who you are. Okay, and I don't mean that negatively. They're going to see thousands of kids. I guarantee that if you go talk to the head of academics or admissions, or somebody in the athletic department, the assistant athletic director, the head equipment manager, that person will remember you forever. Okay, because nobody else is doing that, right? So you can make a significant impression and make a lifelong connection, somebody that you can add to your network, okay, just by something simple like that. Anthony, I love that. I think that's just I think that's a home run of an idea.
Appreciate it. Well, Matt, man, we can go on. I'll probably have you back on the show, but I know you're busy. We're all getting ready for a big event at Top Gun here coming up. But thank you for your time tonight. I think you dropped a lot of great nuggets that are going to help a lot of kids. Because, like I said, one thing you and I both agree upon, and a lot of us at FBU, is we tell kids what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. And 95% of the kids listening right now, eventually your game's going to come to an end. And so you want to start to mirror and follow people who are successful in front of you, whether they're a football player, college or pro, or somebody like Matt. Like, you know what? I've been to an FBU camp. I saw how organized things look. That might be something you might be interested in down the road. So, Matt, appreciate your time. Appreciate the resources and the nuggets you dropped tonight. And I know I'll be talking and seeing you soon, but appreciate you coming on the Spotlight podcast tonight. Thank you.
Anthony, thanks for having me. I'd come on here anytime you want. And anybody who's watching, if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Have a good night.
Thanks. We're good?